The following is a Podbeard production.
EST 2016. This is
Interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more.
This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We have an audio here today on episode 232 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I have a badass episode for you here today, as I try to do every single week here on The Hodder Show, and hopefully I succeed at that. I feel like my track record's pretty good, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Today, I get to sit down and have a chat with Mr. John Brousseau of the Coywolves, a badass band that you guys are going to get very familiar with over the next couple of weeks here. We sit down and we talk about his influences and kind of his start with music, the classic rock revival that's kind of been happening the last few years, and my thoughts on it and how, you know, there's maybe a band or two I'm not a huge fan of, but we have a good talk about it. And that was a kind of a random tangent, but it was actually a lot of fun to hear his perspective, being that he's a little bit younger and he's a big fan of kind of that classic rock revival. We also talk a little bit more in depth about some of his favorite records that really influenced him and what he's listening to now and players that have influenced him, as well as kind of him getting started off with playing music, learning theory and all that fun stuff. A little bit about college, a little bit about the upcoming album, playing shows, and without a doubt, one of the most bizarre and funniest show stories I've ever heard on this show in the history of the Hodder Show. And let me tell you something, folks, that is no easy feat. I promise you do not want to miss a moment of this great interview with John. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that if you listening right now are a bearded brother, or you maybe know someone who is a bearded brother, that you are aware that right now the meanest beard care company in the world, Mean Beard, is currently holding their annual Meanest Beard Worldwide contest, in which people from all over the world submit pictures, the story behind their beards, really who they are, what they stand for, how long they've been bearded, in the hopes of being awarded the title of the Meanest Beard Worldwide for this year. Now, we're already a couple weeks into the contest, and it is heating up, folks. A lot of spectacular entrants, some badass beards, and some badass individuals, because the whole thing is that it's not only the beard, but it's the attitude that determines what truly is a mean beard. And that is something that is so very important. I have had a few people say, man, I'd love to enter, but my beard isn't, 12 inches long. And I'm like, dude, no. Like that's not what it's fully about. Obviously, yes, the beard is important, but it's the person behind the beard that truly is what they are looking for. Obviously, yes, if you have a great beard, I mean, hey, you're going to do well in the contest. But if, you say, oh, you got a great beard, but what are you passionate about? Hot dogs. Okay, well, if that makes any sense. We're looking for good stories. That's what they're looking for. That's what they want to see, people who, stand with purpose and that have a great life motto and that kind of thing. So again, if you have a beard or you know someone with a beard that you think should enter the competition, check it out right now, meanbeardco.com. Go to the contest section. You will find the entry form and all the information you need there, or hit your boy up and I will be happy to send you the links and send you along the right path to enter the Meanest Beard Worldwide competition. While you're at meanbeardco.com, why not also check out the best damn beard care products in the world. It's all I use. Actually, before I sat down to do this, I put a little bit of oil in my beard. And it's so nice. I've been finding lately when I sit down to do a podcast, if I throw a little bit of oil in, it fills me with a sense of serenity and clarity, and my beard feels so nice. I'm not itching during the podcast or whatever, or if my beard scratches up against my microphone and my pop filter, I find it doesn't actually make as much noise. Whether or not you want to believe that, I genuinely hear a difference if I ever, See, you can't even hear that, straight up. If my beard was all straggly and rough, you would hear that, folks. Bam, science. Anyway, I'm rambling on, so we're going to jump in right now to my chat with John Brousseau of the Coywolves. Let's get into it. All right, gang, so being joined on the show today by Mr. John Brousseau of the Coywolves. John, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I'm glad I got to actually pronounce your name properly because you were telling me before we started that there's been some hiccups with that in the past.
Yeah, it's happened far too often.
Well, it can be frustrating. I mean, I know me personally too. I've had similar issues where people, and it's always funny when it comes to last names because it's like, you think people would ask, but I can imagine it'd be frustrating if you're going to play a venue and they have you up on their website or their social media and they spell your name wrong. It's like, well, how are people supposed to find me, man?
Yeah, that's the exact thing I worry about. Yeah, so I've had to start reiterating to spell it right because even like one letter off and then people try and search me and they can't find it. So that's always been a problem the last couple months while I've been performing. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So whenabouts did you first get into music? Like, how did that journey start for you? What was some of the first music you ever heard?
Yeah, so if I can take you back. So I started playing guitar when I was, say like 9 years old. So back when I was in grade 4 and kind of I got like my first guitar for Christmas, like a little classic Fender Squier.
Nice.
Yeah, the guitar 95% of kids start off with. And yeah, basically like my earliest memory of like what really inspired me to want to get into music was like I'd be at my uncle's house and he would play these he would have the DVDs of like these like old Led Zeppelin shows. And I would just nice. Remember watching those for like hours and just being like in a trance, like with all 4 of them too. Like they're just all 4 of them were so good. And it was just like so cool to watch. And yeah, and then I just it was something I wanted to try out. Like I was big into sports and stuff too. And then, yeah, like the guitar just kind of, it didn't come naturally. Like there's a lot of frustrating times when you're first learning it, of course. But like, yeah, it really just started to grow on me and just like take over where like it gets to the point where I'm playing for like 4 or 5 hours a day. And like my parents got to drag me out of my room for dinner.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome. You mentioned the DVDs. Were they all Zeppelin DVDs or were they like?
From what I remember, I think he must have had like a set or something. I don't know. It was like a really long time ago, but I just remember them being Zeppelin. Yeah. So.
That's badass. Was there any other bands in the beginning that kind of like?
Yeah.
Put you in the direction or?
Yeah. Like the big bands, like Billy Talent, big band for me when I was like a kid, especially like I just was loving their music and then I was hearing their Canadian and stuff. And yeah. I just love all like the energy of their music. Like, especially when I was younger, I was huge into them for a while. Yeah.
Billy Talent are one of those groups that like, like obviously, like I know you're obviously younger than me, but like being an older millennial, Billy Talent, when they came onto the scene, man, like I was there for Billy Talent too, and yeah. When they exploded onto the scene, everyone was like, yo, what? Like, why is this guy screaming at me? But like, because you know how he's got that like, I remember what song it was. Oh shit, what song was it? Oh no, it's gonna bother me. It was like their first like big. The bridge. He like screams like really heavily in the bridge. The hell is it? Yeah. Oh my god.
Like was it Devil in a Midnight Mass?
Yes, that's
yeah.
Wow. Okay, folks, if that doesn't prove what a goofball I am, he literally said, I was about to sing that part. He literally says, because that was the big joke. Everyone was like, what's that song called? Devil in a Midnight Mass. Like, oh yeah, okay. But they're one of those bands, man, that anytime anyone brings them up, I'm always like, I think sometimes I forget about Billy Talent. Like, they're such a great Canadian band that is kind of underrated, I think, at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Especially just the energy they bring. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. Yeah, I know. I either hear that people really love them or that they just don't really care for them. I always hear people talking the singer making breaks that band. Like tons of people just love Ben. I know. Kind of just like some people just complain that like his voice is like, I don't even know. It's kind of similar to mine. Like when you check out my music, not like this, like I don't scream like he does, but like kind of in like the pitches and stuff. But yeah, no, I love him.
And I dig that. Like it's very, like as much as I'm a fan of singers that are very like refined and they're very and I don't mean this as an insult, but like they're very pretty and like they hit all these wonderful high notes and stuff like that. Like people like, my shouts to my dudes, Brandon Hastings from Outshined, who is, a very clean singer, and he's very obsessive with that. But to me, like I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan, right? So for Lane Staley, it's like I'm looking at a poster of him right now. Like he was some people, you either love his voice or you're like kind of like he's off pitch there. It's like, no, he's not. He's just it's different. It's a different sound. Yeah,
like the priorities to like be in your face, like make you feel it, right? Yeah. And I think that's similar to like this, like, because I didn't like pick up singing for a while until like more recently, like when I like decided I wanted to start playing live and stuff, and it was something that never really came natural to me. Like I've come a long way. Like you'll listen to like the music when it comes out, and like you can tell that like I'm not going to be the most gifted singer, but like I just do my best to make it sound like like what we were just talking about. It's
real and it's kind of in your face and raw.
Like it's not going to be perfect, obviously, but I try and I try and make it raw and real. Yeah,
a little bit of punk aspect in there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there any other bands that kind of in the beginning really influenced you aside from Led Zeppelin and Billy Talent, or?
I'm trying to think. Like when I was younger, I was more into like those punk rock bands, like into like Green Day and all that stuff. And then as I got older, I was more into like the classic rock, like Foo Fighters, Nirvana, and then like Rolling Stones. I went to see them in the summer when they were up in Oroma Dante, and that was awesome.
That's badass. I gotta say, it's funny that I don't know if you did this intentionally, but it's funny that you lumped Foo Fighters in with classic rock, because you're technically not wrong, but just to me, I'm like, what? But it's that's classic rock now, technically.
I guess.
It's just funny to
yeah.
Makes you feel old, man. But no, but it's cool because like it sounds like your background's very like it's in the rock roots, but it sounds like there's kind of some grunge elements in there as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as like different, like when you started playing guitar, was there any like players specifically that you were like, oh man, I want to learn to play like that guy, or I want to learn to write riffs like that guy, or did you kind of want to be? I guess my question is, did you want to be more of like an electric riff guitar player, or like did you just want to write songs? Like kind of where was your headspace when you started off compared to now?
Yeah, well, after you asked that, I can't believe I ever forgot to mention like the Chili Peppers. Like they're probably maybe even like the biggest band that I listened to when I was younger. Like when you said like guitar players that you kind of modeled after, like John Frusciante was like huge for me, just because like he kind of like the focus of his guitar a lot of the time, right, is to like do more with less. Like he wouldn't often have these like crazy big guitar solos, but like you'd always feel it every time. So like I always tried to not necessarily like I wouldn't model his styles too much, but try and like always have that in mind, especially when like writing guitar parts. Like it doesn't always have to be some crazy mind-blowing thing for it to like sound really cool. But like in terms of like riff styles and stuff, like Jimmy Page is probably like the biggest one for that, and you can definitely hear that. And like I try to have like my recordings, like especially like the newer ones, like just based around the guitar. So like there's guitar solos in like most songs. Like there's guitar melodies throughout. Like I have one where there's like there's barely any words and it's just guitar solos. So like like I like just making riffs with the guitar and like having that the centerpiece of most songs, because that's where I'm most comfortable.
Nice, kind of more in that guitarist range, but you'll sing because there has to be words, I guess, is kind of what
yeah. I've gotten better with that. So like with under the Coywolves name, I like created that back when I was in like grade 9 or 10, and I just named it the Coywolves because there was always like these they said they're Coywolves in like the forest behind my house. So I don't know how that name I can't remember how that name actually came around. But anyways, like I released like this one album went back when I was in grade 10, so I would have been 15, I think, and then I did another when I was 17, and like just listening back, they're kind of like shit, just because. Yeah, sorry, I can swear. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely, yes,
okay,
yes.
I'm not a big swearer. Yeah, okay.
I forgot to say that beforehand. Yeah, no, we're good. Just don't drop any hard C bombs, and we're good.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Yeah, but just listening back, obviously, because just like I've grown a lot since then. Just listening to like even like the lack of attention to detail. I'll just listen and be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't re-record that and stuff. But it's gotten like it's cool seeing the progression since then. So
yeah, for sure, man. It's funny, like listening to you talk to about like players that you like and the style of guitar playing you like. Obviously, with that style of playing, you're gonna grow with time and you're gonna evolve. And looking back, it's like I'm sure that the stuff it has its charm because it's like this is a riff I wrote when I was 15 compared to now. Obviously, it's going to be very, it's like, oh man, or a song you wrote, oh, I can't believe I have this harmony part here. Like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, for sure.
That doesn't make any sense. But, I believe it was, actually, I know it was Zach Wilde who said too, that you don't hear great guitar players, you feel them. And you talking about how, the kind of do more with less.
Yeah.
And that vibe is very important, but also to the whole, 15-year-old thing. Kirk Hammett wrote one of the best Metallica riffs when he was 15.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar at all, but their song "Creeping Death."
Yeah.
Yeah, the bridge part, that really heavy.
Oh, he was 15.
He wrote that.
Yeah.
He was 15 years old. So
yeah.
Never say never.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with like even the production stuff, because like I just do all this stuff on my own, right? So I'll like do all the mixing and everything. So like that's probably like the biggest thing. Like even like just the quality of and even like, just all this stuff I'm less comfortable with, like the drums and the vocals. Like from listening to the one that came out when I was 15 to this one, like it's gonna be a big difference.
Oh, for sure. So with those original recordings, you were doing all that stuff yourself? Like you would play in drums and everything yourself?
So I have like I'd put in like a drum program.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like I have a drum kit. I just don't have like the mic setups, and like I'm really not a qualified drummer at all. But then I'd play everything else in, and then I do everything else other than the drums. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was going to say Mr. Dave Grohl over here,
Yeah.
Watch out, Dave Grohl.
Yeah, that's the goal, be Dave Grohl.
And you can just record a song fully with yourself and make a video with yourself playing all the parts.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But it's funny. I want to go back for a minute to talking about the classic rock stuff. So this whole... Because this is something that it keeps coming up on my podcast, and I get really upset about it and angry about it. But I always like to hear people's takes who are kind of rock guys or girls. This whole like kind of classic rock revival that's going on right now. Are you for it, or are you kind of like,
yeah. Oh, I love it. Like you talking about like are you talking about like the pop culture trends of people wearing the shirts? Or are you talking about like the new bands coming up like in the genre?
I'm talking like the new bands. And to be clear, I'm not specifically talking about, because people will hear that and they go, what do you got against like Rival Sons or the Glorious Sons or whatever? And I'm like, no, not them. I'm not talking about them.
Okay,
bands that have like, for example, Glorious Sons. I'm sorry?
Sorry, you talking like bands like Greta Van Fleet? Like...
I am absolutely talking bands like Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah.
That and it's I want to reiterate the fact that I'm not talking about bands that, if you are a band from the last few years that has some elements of classic rock but with your own unique take on it, I'm all for it. Like the Glorious Sons, I think, are like one of the best rock bands to come out the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Just because of
awesome.
how, I mean, when I heard Heavy, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is awesome. And Rival Sons are great too. And there's tons of, I'm forgetting a whole bunch, but then there's Greta Van Fleet, who I don't know if you're a Greta Van Fleet fan.
Yeah, I've seen them. Okay. I've seen them live. Yeah.
Cool. Now, how were they live? Were they good live?
So I've gone to 2 of their live shows, but the most recent one, me and my buddy got kicked out because I went and bought him a beer and he hadn't turned 19 yet. And then, long story short, it was a disaster. I guess I'm admitting to a crime on your show, but.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is, we can always edit that out if you want. No big deal.
No, it's okay.
Depending on what it was, statute of limitations.
Yeah. Well, like, to be honest, like the time I saw them, it was at Rebel nightclub in Toronto, and I was like really impressed by like their overall ability. Like I know a lot of people don't like how similar they are to Zeppelin, like even in like the way they down to the way they dress. But like I've heard lots of people talking about them saying like many bands like in their early stages will emulate other bands, and then maybe the reason that they're just closer is because they just got really big really fast. So I don't know, like I don't want to be complaining about them too, like sticking too close to Zeppelin this early. Like if they make a full-on career out of it and goes on, like it's one thing, but I think there's an argument that can be made that they're just like still starting out and still trying to find their niche.
Absolutely. And my issue, and I have no idea why I'm getting into this, but it's just kind of the route we were going. But I am a fan of Greta Van Fleet. I like their music. I have no problem with the fact that they sound exactly like Led Zeppelin if they came out in 2015. I have no issue with that. My issue, and most people agree with me when I say this, is I saw an interview with them. And they were sitting and they're just kind of chilling and they looked like a rock band. And I'm like, cool, I can dig it. Kind of had a bit of ego. And I'm like, even that's fine. Because you should. Very talented. And I heard the singer say something and it just went up my ass sideways. And that was the interviewer asked him, oh, so I know you guys are sick of hearing the whole Zeppelin thing, but I just want to ask he looked at the singer and he said, who is your favorite vocalist that you would say like influenced you the most? And he said, you know what's funny, I actually am not a fan of Zeppelin at all, and I'm not a fan of Robert Plant. I'm actually a massive Steven Tyler fan, and I'd say he's my biggest influence. And he like completely shot down and shit on Led Zeppelin and then said that Steven Tyler was his favorite vocalist, and I just went, what? Huh. And then they played live, and they played Highway Song, and I was like, so I just, for whatever reason, I'm not as mad about it as I used to be. I used to be like, really, dude, like seriously, write a unique song. But anyway, but it's interesting to get people's takes on it, because like I think for me, it's just maybe it's just because I'm older. I'm just like, damn kids in your music, write something original. But I grew up in like the new metal era with Limp Bizkit and shit. So it's like people are like, shut up, you don't know, you have no say in this. Yeah. But are there? Oops, sorry.
Have you seen the like the interview with Robert Plant talking about Greta? Like he is not a fan at all.
He isn't, okay, because I read something recently, like the last couple months, where I think that he kind of was like, meh, like I'm kind of over it now, more power to them. But I know at first he was like, seriously?
Yeah, I just saw a clip where he's like, yeah, this kid stole my voice, and
which I mean, listen, like that's like, and it's not like people, because people would say, I don't know if you're familiar at all with the band Thornley.
No.
So there's a band called Thornley. They're awesome. You should check them out. They're very good. Another Canadian guy, been around for years, Ian Thornley. He has moments where he kind of sounds like Chris Cornell. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris. You familiar with Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
I just want to make sure. So people will be like, oh, he sounds just like Chris Cornell. And I'm like, no, his voice is somewhat similar, but it's in completely different registries. Like he doesn't sound, especially now as he's getting older, he doesn't sound like him. But it'd be different if it was like, sometimes you'll hear a singer and you'll be like, oh, he kind of sounds like this guy. It's like, oh, this guy kind of sounds like Corey Taylor, or this guy kind of sounds like, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, or two very random people. But just, it'd be one thing if that was all it was. It's like, oh, I hear influence, but it's like, nah, he literally, the second he busted out, they're like, whoa! I was like, really, dude? Come on. I don't know. That's just but well, is there?
It's hard for them to like kind of try and push away the Zepp. Like they just don't do themselves much favors when they dress like them. Yeah. And like I don't know if you've seen them play live, but like their movements and stuff. Not to shit on them or anything, but I think they're awesome. But just for the sake of conversation, like I've talked about that with other people too. Yeah, like they're not doing themselves any favors with the Zeppelin comparisons when they dress like them and stuff. But
I think for me too, it's because I'm such a fan, and I mean I do a freaking show about it basically, where I try to do my very, very small part to shine a spotlight on musicians that aren't signed, or they're up and coming, or they're local, that are unique, and they're writing great unique songs that don't sound like anything else. And I'm very conscious of that. Like I don't want to have a band on that sounds like they're covering another band with their original music. That's just me personally. Like I've respectfully declined stuff before for that reason. They always get it. They're like, okay, I get it. But and then I see these bands basically being passed up for whatever reason in favor of Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's why it just seems to always rub me the wrong way. But maybe it's because I heard Greta Van Fleet on the radio today too. I don't know. I don't know why I'm going off on it tonight, but that's just funny how that goes. But is there any other bands kind of the modern area that you're digging more now that you would say is an influence for you, or?
Well, yeah, like recently, like all the new bands that have come out these last few years, like the Canadian ones, like I know you're talking about Glorious Sons earlier. Like they're all me and my friends are listening to lately. Like some of my buddies, we went to Kingston for their Little Piece of Work show they did nice. From Kingston, and that was like one of the best concerts I'd ever been to. We first heard them because we were at the Rolling Stones concert in the summer, and they opened for them. And then that's when we first started listening to them. So yeah, like the Glorious Sons and like all the other new Canadian bands, like the Sheepdogs, Monster.
Man, shout out
all these
to
new
the
Canadian bands.
I haven't heard that name in a minute. What are they up to? I haven't. I remember this, and I don't mean this as a shit on, because I actually I love everything about them. Because again, it's unique, but it feels familiar, but it's unique.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But they had that one song, god damn, that was on the radio like every other hour. It was that I Don't Know song.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
And it got to the point, I was working with my old man at the time, and we would always have a radio on the job site, and we'd be sitting there, and that song would come on every 2 hours without fail. And finally got to a point where it came on, and he's just sitting there. Yes, I know. Kill me. I'm just like, shout out to the Sheepdogs. Good band, but just that one damn song, man. I think that's what killed them. I don't know if they're still around. And man, Monster Truck too, badass band.
Yeah,
badass.
Yeah.
I forget they're Canadian. But there's so much great Canadian music. Like, I mean, just looking at like even bands that are a little bit older, like that aren't necessarily like quote unquote rock, radio rock or classic rock or whatever you want to call that kind of revival of a band's like a 3 Days Grace, who's like, you know, one of my all-time favorite bands, obviously. And I can only think of them right now for some reason. But there's tons of them. And you mentioned a little bit ago about Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that's something that I wanted to go back to for a second, because they're a band that has had so many different eras, of guitarists. Now you mentioned John. Yeah. So was he kind of like the main guy for you of the Chili Peppers that were like, cause he's a player that, I mean, he's almost like an urban legend at this point. Like he's kind of achieved this like guitar hero godlike status where just, he was so unique in his playing and what he did compared to, especially like, I don't know who's playing for them now.
Josh Klinghoffer.
Yeah. So that was the last. When did John leave? I'm trying to think. Was that after?
It was just a bit after Stadium Arcadium. I don't know the exact year, but.
So that was like the great Chili Peppers record. Like that was the one that I remember. That's the last one I can remember. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah.
But as far as you now with like with players, is there people that like you kind of like what I guess more my question is, what kind of draws you in now that you're writing songs and you're writing, maybe paying a little bit more attention to writing, what kind of draws you in now when you hear a song? Like, is there a specific type of songwriting that you like, or you just kind of whatever sounds good, man?
I don't know. Like, it's almost like whatever sounds good. Like I think about like the first things that come to mind are like if someone's got a killer guitar player, like that'll always do it for me. And like bands that are based around the guitar, like talking about Zeppelin and stuff. But even like bands we're talking about, like Glorious Sons, like like I probably listen to them more than anyone else right now. And it's not like they're really based around the guitar. They got like the big choruses and like their singer's awesome. So yeah, I don't know if there's something specific that would like bring me into a song, but if it's got that it factor, I don't know how to really describe it, but
it's that intangible it factor where you hear something, it's the hook, it's because some people are like, oh, you know, I like a song with a great structure of this and blah, 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 and they really dissect things. And I'm like, I just listen to music, homie. That's what I do, you know?
Yeah. If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Exactly. Now, did you take any lessons at all or anything, or are you mostly all self-taught?
So I took lessons up until like while I was in elementary school, and then around like I think around grade eight, I'd say I stopped, and I pretty much like I learned like the fundamentals, and then it was just getting to a point where like what I was being taught was like 10% of what I was actually learning. Like 90% of like my actual progression was just me on my own learning stuff. So then, it just got to a point where it was like, I'm pretty much just learning, on my own. So I like most of what I'm learning is just from my own research and practice. So yeah, I took lessons to like learn the basics essentially. And then after that I was done.
Nice. And I mean, I think that's the progression as a player. You know, you get to a point where you just, like as someone who used to work at a place that did music lessons, like you literally get to a point where it's like, okay, you've learned as much as you can. Some people can progress their whole life learning from a teacher and, you know, they can always have something to offer, but some people have to kind of go out on their own once they know, okay, this is how to do this. This is mistakes you shouldn't do. Now be free and go off and make rock, basically.
Yeah, like I think like that's kind of like what music is for me and like a lot of people. And like you could like obviously like getting taught the basics is kind of important because it definitely speeds up the process early on. But like I think in terms of actual music progression, like discovering things on your own and just like having your own, like not like being required to like memorize stuff every week. Like that was the stuff I didn't really like. Just like the creative stuff, like just sitting with a guitar for like however many hours, and then like you pick up something just by chance, or you're listening to something and you hear something cool. So then luckily we live in 21st century. We got the internet and you can look it up and learn how to play it in 2 minutes. That's how I learned all my stuff pretty much.
Nice. Were you kind of the guy from the beginning that you wanted to like learn every riff you heard and learn every cover you heard, or were you more like, hey, I want to write stuff that's my own?
Well, that's how I first started, and that's kind of what like I wanted to learn how to play everything. That was kind of like what made me digress from like traditional lessons. And I just like all the songs from my favorite bands, I wanted to learn them all. Like Billy Talent, it took me forever to figure out how to tune it down to drop D back when I was like 11.
Nice.
And then I was like learning how to play all their songs. So that was when it started, like the lessons started becoming less interesting to me, when I was just learning stuff that people were telling me to listen to, when I like compared to the stuff I wanted to. But I had some great guitar teachers when I was younger that helped with like the theory and stuff, which helped lead into writing. And then I guess at some point it kind of diverged from wanting to learn how to play all this stuff to like learning how to write your own stuff, like just learning the ins and outs of the guitar. And and I just started to slowly forget all the cover songs that I learned to play and just be into riffing and just going through the scales, knowing the neck inside and out. And that's what I'm all about now.
Nice. That is so important. Like as someone who, you know, has been playing guitar for the majority of my life, but I never learned that. I am the most basic, you know, drop D style chord basher you'll ever meet, like caveman music all the way, right? So for me, I'm like, it's so awesome to hear someone who, you know, you take the time to really learn that. And, you know, people say, oh, why don't you take the time now? And I'm like, man, I got a podcast to do, like, you know, but it's cool to hear because it is so important to know, you know, what when I watch guys who really know what they're doing, hey, we're going to write a song. And, oh, well, this goes with this. And you just know what to do and you know where you're going. And it's something that is very valuable, I think, for writing music for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and for sure. And as I've learned more, like writing just gets easier and you learn, like you were saying, like what to put in where and new things that you just like you couldn't have possibly thought of when you were younger just because you hadn't like perceived the scale in a certain way or something like that. So. For
sure. Once you kind of got to a point where you were like, okay, I feel like I want to start playing shows. You did your first couple albums like we were talking about earlier. Did you always kind of have the desire to play in a band, or were you kind of like, I want to do the solo thing? Like, where was your kind of your head at with that?
Yeah, well, I always had the goal of playing in a band at some point. Like that was the major reason why I had the artist name as the Coywolves rather than like John Brousseau or Johnny Brousseau, because I always wanted to play in a band. Like all my favorite artists were bands rather than single artists. They're just like in my like high school and area, there wasn't really because I'm from Guelph originally. There wasn't like too much of an emphasis on music. Like not too many people played, so I didn't really have much good opportunities to play with people. And then I moved to Hamilton. I've got a bunch of guys who I'm going to be hoping to play with in 2020. Nice. So once the album comes out, they're going to go check out the material, and hopefully like in January we'll get together and start rehearsing. So I came to Hamilton last year because I'm in my second year at McMaster. And just the music scene opened up. There's so many more opportunities. So I just started sending emails out because I just really wanted to get to playing live because that was just something I'd always wanted to do. So I had to start working on the singing because I wasn't so good at that. I guess like this year I've started really playing, not like often, but I've played like a decent handful of like live stuff at like bars and stuff, and it's so fun and you get paid great. Not that I really care about the money too much, but it's just a blast.
Well, man, there's something to be said for doing something you love and being able to make a little bit of money from it. Yeah, exactly. There is nothing better than that. Yeah, it's not like it's necessarily about the money, but it's nice. It's something that can help. It's not just a hobby. It's transitioning from a hobby to something that you can have the opportunity to do like full time or in some way support yourself, right? Absolutely. Before we continue on here, we got a lot more to talk about. I want to, of course, ask about the upcoming album and a whole bunch of other things that I've made note that I want to come back and ask you about. But I'm going to take a quick second here to give a much needed shout out, take a quick break to Jaybird Digital Arts, the sponsor of the Hod Heads Show. Hey, you. Yeah, you listening to the Hod Heads Show right now. Are you maybe in a band? Maybe you're a content creator, maybe a performer of some kind who needs t-shirts or logos? Or are you maybe a business owner who's in need of some mailers or some brochures for your business? Maybe some business cards as well? Or are you someone who just needs some family photos edited and you're looking for the perfect graphic designer for you? You need to look no further than my man, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Jaybird Digital Arts is a local business, and you will be supporting the local economy. You will be dealing directly with the boss. There's no sales reps. There's no runaround. You're dealing with the man himself. Above par work at below par rates, and he has over 10 years experience. He will work long and late to make sure your project gets finished on time and on budget. If you have been living under a rock, everybody is using Jaybird Digital Arts, from myself and the whole Podbeard Network, Chinlock Wrestling, House of Hardcore, tons of different bands, Gino's Pizza. Everyone is using Jaybird Digital Arts. And he offers so many other services, I don't even have time to list right now. It would take the whole podcast, but whatever you need, he has your hookup. And he will make sure that he is unique and that you will stand out from the crowd. Contact him today for a free quote by going on JaybirDigitalArts.com, or you can also check him out on Facebook and Instagram at Jaybird Digital Arts and search hashtag Jaybird Digital Arts for a look at all of his awesome and unique work. And you can also contact him by email at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And on top of all of that, if you contact him today and let him know that your boy Hod sent you, he'll even give you a little discount skis on his already fantastic prices. I can assure you, you will find no one better and not a better human being on this earth than Jaybird Digital Arts. And always remember this, folks. His business is not successful unless your business looks great. Contact Jaybird Digital Arts for your free quote today. So we're back here with John Brousseau, not Brousseau or Breuse. What's like the weirdest pronunciation you've ever heard of your name that you were just like?
The most common one's always Brousseau, because the people who aren't are familiar with like the French ending, they always pronounce it Brousseau rather than Brousseau. That's how they get it wrong most of the time.
And it's not even like it's an odd last name or anything. It's just anytime someone, if I have to ask, like, hey, because I'm just I'm a dumb redneck from a small town, so I'm always like, how do you pronounce your name, boy? I don't know what to say. But you mentioned before my break there that you're going to McMaster's, and so just real quick, I'm curious, what are you going to school for right now?
I'm in my second year political science. It's a specialization in global citizenship, political science.
Nice. So that's some hardcore shit right there.
Yeah, the workload's not too bad, but yeah, it's some interesting, complex discussions we have. So
hook it with my dude Will from Rolls Royce. That's a shout outs to them. You should hit that guy up. I'm sure you'd have some fun conversations with him. But the scene in Hamilton, what's it like? Right, not in Hamilton. Excuse me. Where the hell is McMaster's?
Yeah, it's in Hamilton.
Yeah,
like
that's right, Hamilton. Sorry, folks,
Yeah.
It's been a long day. So, what's the music scene like in Hamilton right now? Is it bumping or is it like what's up?
I mean, like, there's no like, like there's bands that play around. Like, I haven't really seen any like big ones coming to emerge yet in the short time I've been here. But there's lots of different opportunities for musicians at the very least. Like, there's so many different places to play. There's multiple record labels and stuff. And there's tons of different stuff going on. So there's plenty of opportunity for artists. Yeah, the short time I've been here, I haven't necessarily seen any like big bands break through. But again, I haven't been here for that long, so.
Yeah, for sure. It's always interesting to hear from people, like, because I mean, obviously, I'm not familiar with Hamilton like at all, so
Yeah.
I'm always curious to hear from people, like, hey, what's going on up there, and who's playing up there. So that's cool to hear, man. But before the break, also we were talking a little bit about the upcoming record, and I'm very excited about that because as you guys hear this, next week is when the album will be dropping, and also spoiler alert, I will be doing a showcase of the album, and I'm very, very excited about it. It was a long time coming, actually, now that I think about it, because I think you messaged me like in
April or March. I was like, hey, I've got an album that's going to come out pretty soon. I was wondering if it could come on. And then it kept just getting delayed. And then finally I texted you maybe like a few weeks ago. I was like, hey man, I don't know if you remember me, but if you're still interested.
Yeah, man, I was chomping at the bit because anytime, like I always say this, anytime someone messages me, I'm always like, ooh, like I feel important. So I'm always, I was chomping at the bit, and I was thinking of you because I had like a little note in my phone of people I need to contact. I'm waiting to hear from, and I was like, oh, John, I wonder how the album's going. So it's funny that your ears must have been burning because I was thinking about that like that week, I think. But so first off, when is the album coming out exactly? What's it called? What's kind of the vibe of it? How was the recording process? Kind of run me through the whole concept of this upcoming album.
Yeah, all right. So album's out December 4th. So that's on a Wednesday. So it'll be out on midnight of the Tuesday before. The album's called As You Were Meant To. As we talked about before, I just wrote everything, recorded, produced it all myself. It's just a good rock and roll record is the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like an indie rock record. Like, the recording's obviously not like, the most professional, but from the work I did, I tried to get it as close as possible. Like, it's a good sound.
It's kind of DIY.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not going to be like a $1 million Foo Fighters record. But like it's your typical indie record, right? So like the way I recorded it basically over like our reading week. So I had all the demos ready and I kind of record them at home during the summer break and then some here at school. And I came home and I rented a bunch of like recording equipment. Like I got some mics and I got some different amps so I could get some different sounds out of it and some soundboards. And so basically those 7 days was just like 10, 12 hours of just in my room plugging out the recordings, just did the bass and then the guitars and then the vocals. Vocals was tough. The vocals actually, I was on my last day, and I was on track to finish up, and then I tripped over the cord from the mic that goes into the incoming monitor, and it pulled the monitor off the desk and broke it. And I had 2 songs left to record, and I had to go back to school in like 6 hours, which sucked. I was like just beyond pissed, but luckily they actually have a great recording booth here at Mac, so I was able to go rent it out for a couple hours and just finish up the last of the recordings like a few days later. So it worked out kind of nice. Yeah,
just kind of bang it out.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool, man. So it'll. I wonder if I'm curious to hear, man. That's really cool because I'm a fan of kind of the like, you know, the good quality DIY stuff. You know, it's one thing if it's like, oh, hey, it's DIY and you recorded it with your phone. I'm like, come on, bro. Like at least, you know what I'm saying? Like at least try to mic something up or whatever. But like, cool. So you mentioned that you had the demos done. So how long have you been writing this record? Like, is it been over the span of a couple years or a few months or?
Yeah, well, so like I'm just always writing stuff, right? Like I hadn't like put anything out publicly since, let's see, I would have been in grade 11. So that's over 2 years ago. But like, I was always like writing stuff, throughout that time. And, but like, I wasn't really sure that I wanted to like put out another album at any specific time until like this year. I kind of just decided, hey, I want to, like I've come a long way in like my production and songwriting and stuff. And like my friends love it too. They're always pushing me, asking me when the next, release is coming. So yeah, then I just started, putting the songs, kind of like being more organized and putting the songs together, getting them all ready. And just recording the demos, I guess throughout the summer. Like there's one song that I wrote, like I probably did it back in like grade 11 or grade 12. And now like 2 or 3 years later, it's ending up on this album.
Well, because that was back in like 2017, I think you said?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's cool. So if you had to kind of say, as far as for the album, like just is it like, would you say there's kind of like a general theme story to the album, or is it just kind of a collection of great rock and roll songs?
Well, like just like my writing in general has kind of like been focused around, like the whole inspiration, like it's all about just like experiences that like me or my friends will have, or just like different like stories about maybe not even stuff that we've done. Or experiences we've had, but stuff we hope to do or something. Like I don't know if I've showed you the cover or not, but like I don't know if you can tell the background. There's just like tons and tons of like tiny pictures, like black and white, of just like me and my friends, me and my family, because they're just like the whole inspiration for all this stuff. Yeah, that's why I'm really excited. Like they're excited for it. I have different songs about just like like I'm like looking at the song list right now. Like I've got the different stuff. Like I got songs about, like, well, so the way I write songs is I'm not necessarily trying to be too specific. I'll kind of have like an idea, like after I'll do the guitar parts and stuff, I'll kind of have a feel of like what it's going to be about. Right. And then I kind of have ideas, and, like, they're not necessarily too specific. Like I'll have songs that are kind of just songs all about, just going out and trying to be a better person, and like going out and working hard. Not necessarily like super specific, but I'll like have specific ideas that are a part of the song, if that makes sense. Sorry, that might have made no sense.
Sure. I'm fully on board with you, man. There's something that I can sum it up with, and that's perfectly vague.
Yeah. Okay.
Meaning just like, thanks Aaron Lewis from Stain for that term I always use, but where it's just, okay, here's kind of sort of what the song is about. Yeah. Like here's what I think it's about, but then this person, you know, my boy Derek over here could, I don't know where Derek came from, but my boy Derek over here could go, no, man, that song's about this. And then, you know, my girl Angela over here could go, no, the song's about this. And that's kind of, I think that's some of the best ways to write songs, is just keep things vague, perfectly vague. Yeah,
for sure. Like even like you're asking me what they're about. I have the song list in front of me on the whiteboard. on my wall, and I was like looking at the song. I'm like, well, what's it like? It was kind of hard for me to explain specifically what it's about, because they're kind of just more based on like ideas rather than like a specific story that I'm telling you. It's more like an idea, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's cool. I'm excited as hell for it, man, because that's kind of why we're doing this now, and it's a little different for me because sometimes I like to have the person on after, but I'm like, nah, let's do it now, let's hype it up, and I'm very excited about that. So, where are you planning on releasing? Will it be available like on all streaming platforms
everywhere.
and everything?
Yeah,
Cool.
like Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much anything under the sun. Yeah, but it's only digital, just because like the production of CDs was expensive, and I'm on a college budget, so
Yeah. He needs money for stuff that college students buys, like textbooks and
beer.
I was gonna say ramen noodles.
Yeah.
But yes, some nice Bush Light or something or whatever. College ain't easy, homie.
Yeah.
But once the album is released, like, do you have any immediate plans like for shows after, or are you're going to release the album and then kind of in 2020 you're going to kind of hit the ground?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was about to use those exact words. Like the plan is, so I finally found some people that I feel good about that are really excited to contribute to like feature writing, and they're excited to play live. So yeah, I think basically the plan is I just wanted to release this album and get it, like, just get that done, and now I'm starting to look towards like rehearsing and then like getting out and playing live as soon as possible in 2020, playing as soon and as often as I can. I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for you, and I can tell you're excited, and that's cool because I feel like we're kind of at this point where you're just about to make this jump. So it's cool and it's exciting.
So. Yeah, for sure.
So aside from obviously from the shows like you're excited to play and you're getting ready to play, you mentioned earlier that of course you have done some shows. So I always like to ask people on the show here, it's kind of a staple question, but what would you say was your worst and your best show? And maybe they're one in the same depending on the situation.
Oh, I've got a good story for you about the worst show.
I'll hit me up.
I'll say the best. I'll save the best for last. So best show. Cool. I don't know. So like most of the time I'm playing just like it's me, like an acoustic guitar, and I'm at a bar. I'm playing for like 3, maybe 4 hours. It's like 2 to 4 hours. Usually it's like 3 hours. The best one is probably like, the one I did back in February. That was like the first kind of like real paid, in public, where like it was like a real professional gig, and like all my friends from home drove down. I had so many people out there, and it went pretty well. I don't know, just like it was just good energy the whole time. The place was full. It was super fun. But the worst, worst show. So this, so it was basically, it was at this. I was hoping you'd ask about this. So I got,
I got you, man. I know.
So back in like however long ago, back in like the spring, I'm emailing places in Guelph because I'm moving back to Guelph for the summer, trying to play there. And this little, it's this space, I'm going to call it. It's kind of like I don't know. It's like a music hall, but it's not necessarily a music hall. It's probably like the size. It's like a really big living room basically. And they have like chairs and stuff.
Kind of like a Legion almost.
Yeah. And they're like, what'd the email say? It was something like, hey, do you want to come play? End of August. They're like, the email said, we normally do our open mic nights on these nights, but we'll have you in to test your draw. We'll have you play that night instead to test the draw. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I was looking and you can have half the door. So I was like, sick. Like I know I'll be able to get tons of people to come out. So then I show up early, and I get there and they're like, all right, so you're our main performer for the night. So it's going to be 2 hours and you're going to play the first half hour and the last half hour. And we're going to have a couple other performers in between that signed up. And I was like, what? Like, you guys told me I was playing for 2 hours. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're just going to be the feature tonight. And I was like, okay. So that it only gets worse from here. So but it's a good story to tell. I was like, So I was like, oh shit, I was panicking. So I started texting like all my buddies and stuff. I'm like, guys, I don't even know what's going on here. You don't have to come. Sure enough, like half of Guelph shows up. Like they're pulling up more chairs. Like this place is like packed. Like everybody showed up for me. And so like I do like the first half hour, and then the person comes and introduces these other people, and everyone's confused. And there was some weird stuff in between me. There was like an erotic Colombian poetry person.
What?
There was some weird shit. And
hold. I'm sorry. Hold up for a second.
That is exactly what he was. Erotic Colombian poet. That was
okay. What the fuck is erotic?
Yeah.
Hang on. The show is coming to a halt for a second while I look this up, because I need to know. I need to know what this is. Hang on. Sorry guys. I'm not even going to stall. Okay. I'm putting on incognito mode though, because I don't know what's going to pop up when I think this. Ahem. Erotic. What was it? Erotic
Colombian. Oh, actually, it was erotic Colombian political poetry. That's what it was. Yeah, even weirder.
What the?
Yeah, and it's 100% true story.
What pops up here? Okay.
Careful.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an anomaly. I've never.
Yeah, he owns the genre, I guess.
I mean, good for him, I guess. But what the hell? And that's a new one.
Yeah, and then this other lady came up. And she's like, just a heads up, I usually forget the words, and I sometimes forget the chords to my songs. So I'm just going to do the best I can. And she did like 3 songs, and every time she had to stop. And then she would either stop playing guitar and just sing, or like she would just like stop it altogether. And then I feel like there was 1 or 2 other people, and it was just bizarre. And the whole time, like my friends and my dad's like texting my buddies' dads who are there. He's trying to get them to laugh. And it turned into a competition of like my friends trying to get each other to like make noise and laugh, just because it was so bizarre. Like it was the most bizarre shit you've ever seen. And then, I played for the last half hour, and at the end, they're like, yeah, this is like, we had like an established, like one of the biggest blues bands in the area, and it was like half as full as this. And I like broke the record for their door for like those nights or something, and everybody just came for the most bizarre show they've ever seen. So that was hilarious. That's a story that we're not going to forget anytime soon.
Man, that's a new one.
Yeah,
I've heard some pretty interesting, funny stories on the show in my time, but erotic Colombian,
that was the first
political, like. So was this dude? I'm sorry I'm so hung up on this, but like, so was this dude just standing there? Was he like snapping his fingers? Was it like slam poetry? Or was he just
he was just reading off his laptop, and like to be honest, I don't really remember too much of what he was saying, because like I was just doing my best to be respectful and like just not like try and not make any noise, because
you don't want to laugh.
Exactly.
It's, like, it's not necessarily the people's faults that they probably didn't know what was going on either.
Exactly. Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for all these people, because everyone came expecting to just watch me for a couple hours, and then out of nowhere this shows up. So
it was just a mess.
It was just a mess all around. Yeah.
I'm picturing like you get off, you go off, and then the guy comes up. All right, John Brousseau. All right, let's keep it going for Hank and his erotic Colombian poetry.
Yeah, that.
And it's just like.
I remember like so I went and sat beside one of my buddies after, and he gets introduced, and I think like the person who was speaking couldn't even remember what he said he did, and he's like, yeah, I'm a Colombian erotic political poet. And my girlfriend's dad is sitting like a row up. He just turns over and looks at me, and he's like, what is going on here? I was like, I don't know, I'm so sorry. Like literally so many people came, like people had to stand, there wasn't enough seats, and all of them were so confused. It was just a mess.
It was just like, what the hell is going on, man? John, what is he like? Someone comes in like, wait, is that John? What is he reading?
Yeah,
what the? They just hear it. They're like, what?
Yeah, some people came in like later, so they hadn't seen me play it first, and then they are like not even sure if they're in the right spot. And that was pretty funny.
Some dude reading erotic Colombian political poetry. I want a T-shirt that says I write erotic Colombian Political poetry. Oh, jeez, that's great, man. Oh my gosh, that is thank you for sharing that story. That was
Yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be I don't know if I'll ever have a story for worst gig ever again. I had my worst gig pretty early in my career, and yeah, I don't know if I'll ever top that. So
most people, it's like, yeah, we forgot the words and like my guitar string broke and like, but that's a new one. That is fantastic.
yeah.
That's awesome. And well, it's been real fun chatting with you. And just kind of before we go, obviously aside from music, which is kind of what we've obviously discussed mostly here today, what else is kind of like what do you do in your other spare time? Are you a hobbyist of anything else, or is it pretty much just all music?
Well, I try to like avoid downtime as much as I can, just because if my mentality is if I'm watching TV, I might as well at least have like a guitar in my hands.
Absolutely.
So I'm not being totally unproductive. But yeah, no, like I love playing sports. Like I'm playing like soccer men's leagues in the summer. Like I used to play like competitive sports when I was younger, but that's all over now. So now we're retired to the beer leagues. And
boy.
yeah. And I just hang with my friends and family a lot, especially now that I'm at school. Like whenever I go home, just spend as much time as I can with my friends and family. And here, with my friends here. I try and not spend time in front of a screen as best I can. Even though I'm like one of the worst for always being on my phone, I try and consciously stay away from that. But just music and sports and family, pretty much. That's the big three, and friends.
That's great, man. That's a great formula to have too. I mean, I'm kind of the same in the sense of, man, if I'm sitting and watching TV, I'm just like, I could be doing podcast shit right now. What am I doing?
Stuff, yeah.
Go record, asshole. What are you doing? Like, it's that little voice that's saying, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. So where can the good people find you if they want to drop you a follow, drop you a like?
So I'm Johnny Brousseau on Instagram and Twitter. My buddy recently started setting up social media accounts for the Coywolves specifically. So it's Coywolves Music on Instagram. And then I think if you just look up Johnny Brousseau, the Coywolves on Facebook, like it'll pop up quickly. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm actually just looking it up right now just because I tend to have a bad habit of forgetting to add.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just looking it up right now. Isn't that cool? Beautiful. Awesome, man. Well, before we go, is there anything else that you kind of want to plug or give any shout outs or anything?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Yeah, you're a great interviewer, gotta say. And yeah, I just want to thank you again for having me on, man. Like, I really appreciate it. Just been trying to spread the word best I can. And I really appreciate not only you have me on, but like the excitement you've shown for it. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, it's been absolutely my pleasure. And I mean, thank you for contacting me about it and keeping in contact with me because it's been fun. And I'm super excited. Do not miss out, guys. December 4th. The record drops, and then December 5th, I'll have a showcase for you if you did not check it out. John, thanks again, my man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, gang. There you have it. My chat with John Brousseau of the Coywolves. Great guy. I had a great chat. I really had a lot of fun with that. Did I just rhyme? Totally not on purpose. I did. Bet y'all didn't know I could drop some hot fire like that, son. I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed my conversation. It was a lot of fun. Be sure to come back next week as I will have a music showcase for his upcoming record. It is going to be an absolute blast. I am super, super hyped. Like I said in the interview, usually I like to do the interviews after we've heard kind of the new upcoming music or whatever, but I'm like, you know what? We're hyping it, and I'm excited. And also, spoiler alert, some of the music that you heard in this episode kind of leading into the show from the intro and out of the ad spot and stuff like that is actually music from the record. So that was pretty cool that we got to throw that in there, something we talked about after we've done the interview. And it's cool, man. It's cool. It's really cool. The stuff I've heard, I'm very much enjoying. But that's all I'm going to say on that, man. I'm not going to give anything else away. Y'all got to tune in here next week. Or if you don't want to listen to me ramble on aimlessly about what I think of the music, you can just check out its release on December 4th. Just go on Spotify, search the Coywolves. I will try to make sure to remember to throw the link in the description to the social media so that you can, I'm sure once it is released, he will drop the links there for everybody, but definitely support him. Good dude. And I'm very excited for his 2020. I feel like he's going to take off. And we're very excited about that here on the Hod Show. And I'm excited that you listen to the show. Thank you so very much. If you are listening right now, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the interview. Let me know if maybe you have a follow-up question for John. I'll be sure to hit him up. Or if you have anything you want to say, hit me up anytime, either however you're listening. If you're listening maybe on the SoundCloud, you can comment. Or if you're listening on the YouTube, be sure to drop a comment. If you're listening on any other way, whether it's Spotify or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe, follow me there. And also be sure to hit me up on the social media. We have Facebook and Instagram, both at The Hod Show. You can also find me at Podbeard Network, which is the network I'm a part of, proudly a part of my network of some great shows on there. Of course, it's podbeardnetwork.com/The Hod Show. And if you have any other questions or comments or ideas for shows, you want to tell me I'm an idiot and you don't like me, you can message me at thehodershow@gmail.com. I welcome all emails and comments and everything. I love to chat with you guys. It's what we're all about here on the Hod Show, having fun. And also what we're all about is giving shout outs to my Hod Heads. That's right, my Hod Heads, the number one supporters of the Hod Show, my Patreon subscribers. These are people who have gone that extra mile. And it is, of course, totally optional. But they have gone the extra mile to subscribe to a tier on my Patreon. Now, if you're not familiar with what Patreon is a service that basically you go on and you subscribe either to, say, a $1, $5, $10, or $20 tiers in which you get different rewards. It's not a donation. You're not just giving me money for nothing. You get things in return. For the $2 tier, you will get shoutouts every single week here on the show, personalized shoutouts that I will give you, which I'm going to get to for my Hod Heads in a moment. You then also, if you join the $5 tier, you will get the personalized shoutouts. You will also get exclusive content that no one else will hear, like a brand new podcast I'm doing just for my Patreon subscribers, live streams, videos, and all that sorts of fun stuff. If you join the $10 tier, you will get all of that, and you'll get free merch anytime it becomes available. That's right, I'm going to just give you a t-shirt, homie. You don't got to worry about buying one. If you subscribe to the $10 tier, I will just give you merch anytime it comes out. And then the final tier that I have is a $20 tier, and I'm calling it an advertising spot. For $20 a month, I will advertise your service or product with either a personalized ad read like I do for Jaybird Digital Arts, or I can even work on an actual commercial for you. I know people, we can get something really cool done, I assure you. For $20 a month, there's going to be hundreds of people a month that are going to hear your product or your service. I can guarantee it. However, if I think that maybe it's not something I can help you out with, I'll always be honest, man. And, if we do 1 month and you go, I don't really know if I want to do this, that's perfectly okay. There's no commitment. If at the end of that month you're not really feeling it, that's fine. As a sign of good faith, I will still run the ad for that next month just to kind of give it one more final push. But, kind of a unique opportunity for people maybe wanting to have a podcast or advertise their stuff. I have a very loyal fan base who does listen to what I have to say about things because I'm not a bullshitter. And if I don't stand fully behind the product, even if you're going to pay me, I ain't going to advertise it. That's just a reality situation. But hit me up with your product or service, and if I think I can help, I absolutely will. And of course, I want to give a massive shout out to my Hod Heads. First off, we have Mr. Scotty Duquette, one of my oldest buddies of Suds Window Cleaning in Clarington, Ontario, Canada. Scott's a great dude, long time friend of mine. We've been friends for freaking ever, man. And just long time confidant, big supporter of the show. Really appreciate all your support, my man. And if you need, we're heading into the winter time, so maybe you don't need your windows cleaned or your gutters cleaned or your power washing done or anything, which our services he does provide. But if you need some Christmas lights hung, hit my dude up. he will hook you up with hanging some Christmas lights. And who wants to hang Christmas lights? I know I sure as hell don't. So if I had a house that I needed Christmas lights hung on, guess who I'd be calling? My man, Mr. Scotty Duquette. Again, that's Suds Window Cleaning. And Scott, thank you very much for your support, my man. I love you. And then, of course, we also have Mr. Will from Rolls-Royce, who has been another big-time supporter of the Hod Heads Show and good buddy of mine for a while now. If you are not familiar with Rolls-Royce, you must be living under a rock, man, because they're one of the most badass punk rock bands going right now. Definitely a more refined punk sound. And their album, And So On, was one of my all-time favorite views I've ever done. Man, I still rock Six Beers, which is the opening track of that record. That's one of my favorite songs, as well as Last of the Enforcers. Two badass songs that will actually happen to pen that song, Last of the Enforcers. So that's always fun. But great dude, and he's also been on the show twice. 2 video interviews that I did a little while ago. I believe it was like 186, 87, somewhere in that ballpark. I could be totally off, actually. I don't remember what it was. Was it in the 200s? It was in the 200s. It's been a while. But either way, big shouts to him. Check out Rolls-Royce if you are looking for some great new music to check out. Rolls is spelled R-A-W-L-S. Royce is just R-O-Y-C-E. Check him out. Let him know that Hod has sent you. Thank you, my dudes, for all the support. I love you, and I seriously do appreciate it. If you want personalized shoutouts like that, hit up my Patreon. Again, that is patreon.com/The Hod Heads Show. But again, this is fully optional. It's just a little something extra to help the show grow. But either way, you are helping the show grow by listening. Thank you so very much, especially if you are still listening all the way to the end. You are literally my hero. Virtual fist bump. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time on The Hod Heads Show. Take it easy, guys.